Okay, so we're back here, and this time we're doing a special edition of Gus and Travis Talk Film. We're going to do our best films of 2014, and we're going to chat a little bit about the Oscars, too. So, how are we going to do this? Should we go from 5 to 1? Like a backwards countdown?
Well, first of all, you use the word best. And for me, it's really my favorite
Favorites.
film.
Favorites.
Okay? Because it's so personal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we can do it any way we like. So why don't you start and I'll follow.
Okay. Well, we'll start with our fifth choice and work to our first. Okay. My fifth choice, we already had a camera die. Hold on. My fifth choice for the best is a little bit of a cheat. Okay. I'm going to pick the first hour of A Place Beyond the Pines. Okay. And the first half of Out of the Furnace and combo them into one.
No, that's actually interesting. I like that.
Because I with Place Beyond the Pines, I thought that the first half with Ryan Gosling was exhilarating. I thought it was some of the freshest American work I've seen in a really, really long time. And then the film turns into a retread of Serpico. And
there's something conventional about.
Right, and I like the ambition of what he was trying with these, these different, focusing on the different characters and these different generations. But I think I saw his film Blue Valentine, and it has a small, intimate, intense feeling to it, and that's what I feel in the first hour of Place Beyond the Pines. And to me, that confirms that's kind of what he should stick with. And then with Out of the Furnace, I expected to hate that film, and the first hour and a half I thought was incredible. As you know, I'm not a fan of Christian Baio. I thought it was one of his most nuanced performances. It had the feeling of, many critics have said it has the feeling of Deer Hunter in it. Casey Affleck, the whole cast is just incredible. And then it's one of those that in the second half it dives into convention and completely loses itself. But I love parts of those movies so much that I wanted to highlight them.
Okay, no, that's pretty good.
What's your number 5?
My number 5, let's see. Well, I didn't rank them in that way, but I'll do it now. Frances Ha.
Okay.
I like this film a lot because, one, it's a step forward from the mumblecore perspective, that whole theory of making films. I think her performance is knockout in it. And it wasn't recognized by any of the awards giving groups, at the end of the year. It's almost like the film is totally forgotten, And it was a film I wasn't ahead of, which is always a plus as far as I'm concerned. But I also like the spontaneity of it. This is something that we don't always see in film. We can appreciate a well-structured screenplay, like A Place in the Pines. One of the things I liked about it, we saw that film together, you and I. I agree with you that I wasn't crazy about the end, but I love the structure of it, that it takes place in essentially 3 time frames. Right. It's novelistic, and I enjoy that kind of thing. Well, with Frances Ha, the film feels improvised, but it's not. It was scripted, but it bursts at the seams of the frame so often that it has a real feeling of spontaneous life occurring as we're watching the picture. And so that's why I pick it, plus her performance.
Yeah, her performance is amazing. That's perfect because Frances Ha is actually my number 4.
Oh, okay.
I saw that movie in theaters and I loved it. I thought it was it felt in some ways like some of the best of Woody Allen's work from the late 70s and early 80s, Manhattan and stuff like that. But a new version of it, not copying that. I thought a couple things.
And without the formality of Allen.
Right. And like you said, so much spontaneity. A couple thoughts on it. One, I thought it was one of the best movies I've ever seen. One of the only real movies I've ever seen about female friendship. Female friendship in movies just seems to always be kind of just pushed to the side, or it's very surface. And this was like really a movie about 2 girls, 2 women, and how throughout the years their friendship evolves as they see men, and as they go through these career changes. And then the other thing is, While I was watching the movie, her performance is so good that I fell in love with her.
Yeah.
Right? Like I literally, I left the theater and I was like, I'm in love with Frances. Right? And I thought this is a testament to her acting. I felt when I left, I said, that must be what Greta, the actress, is really like.
Yeah.
I read a review or an interview. She says she's the complete opposite personality. I says, that's the best performance by a female this year, because again, I fell in love with someone and I felt that they were that person, and she's complete opposite. So it feels so spontaneous. It feels so real. It's totally underrated. I don't know how it hasn't gotten more attention.
Well, you touch on something, an interesting point. I just want to point out a movie that, if anybody wants to go back and look for it, that deals with female relationships.
Yeah.
And that's a film called The Turning Point.
Okay.
And that was a film with Shirley MacLaine and Bancroft.
Right.
And that deals with it in a nice way. It's a Hollywood picture.
I haven't seen that one. Yeah.
But it's a goodie.
Good.
Okay.
What's your number 4?
My number 4. Let me look at my list again. Prisoners.
Okay.
And that's a film, again, that, I understand why it got lost in the shuffle, but it didn't get lost in the shuffle in my head.
Okay.
If I was one of the people giving, nominating people for awards, definitely I would have nominated Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman,
because I thought he gave a performance that made me uncomfortable and painful. It was painful to watch him go through it, and I understood every step of the way why he was behaving the way he was behaving. The story has one of those plots that clearly it's a plotted piece, but it is so well plotted that it got me to think about other things, not just the context of what was going on in there. But when, for people who haven't seen the movie, I don't want to ruin it, but when he takes the young man and he puts him in that room, I started to think of the arguments we have about waterboarding and torture, and what it yields, what information it yields, etc. And so it's the only film, I think, of this year that presents moral dilemmas in such a primary way that I really thought about them in more than casual terms, because, it just felt like this is a situation that I might be involved with, and how would I behave under these circumstances?
Right. Yeah.
Would I behave like Jackman, or would I behave like Terrence Howard? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I really have no idea. And the other thing that I liked about it, and it's something that I felt, I get involved with actors' careers. They don't know it, but, and I want certain actors to be more appreciated for what they are than they are appreciated for.
Yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal is an actor I've liked for a long time, and, I know, things like Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah.
He gets some appreciation for. But there's a subtlety in his work that I don't think has ever been appreciated. And in this particular picture, he does two things. One, the work is absolutely subtle, but he gives a star turn. And the reason why I say that is because he carries the picture without having to carry the overt dramatic activity of the film.
That's true.
And he carries it so well that he gives it a special presence. And I loved him for that. Years ago when I was teaching classes, when I talked about Sidney Poitier, who I always felt was a spectacular film actor, it was the same thing. And the film I always used was A Patch of Blue, simply because Sidney isn't the character who carries the dramatic action. The blind young woman is, but he gives it such grace on the periphery that it makes the film special. And Gyllenhaal does it in this, and this is why I like the film so much. Besides all the other virtues.
I agree with you. I agree with you completely. I agree. I'll talk a little bit about Prisoners in just a second. My number 3 is Leviathan.
Okay.
Right? Now I know most of you.
Okay, both of us have number 3, Leviathan.
Okay, so then we'll just talk about it. So most of you have probably not heard of this film,
no,
right?
I think so.
And definitely not seen it, right? It's not the one from the 80s.
No.
Let's clarify that. Yeah.
With that one, I was going to say that.
It's not the one from the 80s. This is a movie that would be classified as a documentary, but I really think that it almost exists. It's almost unclassifiable.
Yes.
It all takes place on a deep sea fishing ship, mostly at night, I believe, and is really just purely images on this ship, images of the the nets being pulled up, and I'm talking like I think the first take is a 10-minute take of just these nets being pulled up, and then there's another like 4-minute take of just the dead fish in the boat rocking back and forth, and there's a take on just the captain's eye as he commands the ship,
and sometimes the fish just struggling for breath.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or a bird caught in the with the fish struggling to get out, and all kinds of amazing images. And it is a movie that really puts you through the test. When we saw it, there were many people who walked out. It was a small theater in the first place, and many of them couldn't take it. And I don't get seasick. I've never been seasick in my life. This movie made me seasick. I wanted to step out of the theater just to take a breath, because I just need a breath. I just need to take a break. But I made myself stay because I felt like it's one of those movies where the experience of seeing it from beginning to end and being immersed in it is so incredible. And you could almost call it. You could call it so many things. A horror film. There's even a horror vibe to it. Not in the supernatural sense,
I understand.
Something truly dreadful that kind of weighs over it. What are your thoughts on Leviathan?
It's the most uncomfortable movie I've sat through in years.
Yeah.
And like you, I wanted to leave the theater to give myself a break, and I wouldn't because I was afraid I'd miss something.
Right.
But I sat there. I kept wishing that the filmmakers would give me a break. I kept thinking, why don't they stop now? Settle this camera so that I could settle myself and then get back into it. But they don't do that.
Yeah.
They just present this thing. Mm-hmm. I have a film here. Actually, it's not far from where we're sitting right here. That it's, we're trying to figure out how to categorize this film.
Yeah.
And I would just call it experiential cinema, because you just experience what it is. This is called Into the Silence, and it's just a film.
The one about the monks.
The monks. That's all they do. I mean, you follow these monks and you watch them pray. You hear them sing and chant. You watch them endure the cold, and then you see them go to sleep, and the next day the same thing, and it's over and over and over again. It's highly meditative. I have it because I put it on at night sometimes, and I sit there and I meditate other aspects of life, my life, other people's life, in a nice way. It gives me a way of resting my mind as well as keeping it occupied. Leviathan doesn't allow you that, but it gives you the experience that I will never have in life, and that is going on one of those boats and living like that. We talked about this, the scene where he's watching The Deadliest Catch, the guy, and in a way, after we've been through all of this, The Deadliest Catch seems
so tame, right?
Absolute like sissy work.
Yeah. There's a scene where the captain of the boat, it just shows him. The camera stays on him alone as he watches The Deadliest Catch and slowly falls asleep.
And we just hear The Deadliest Catch.
And that's and again, to me, this is a movie to some degree. I think you could say with no consideration for the audience.
Not at all.
Right. And I find that so refreshing. Whereas all the other movies on my list, they're playing to an audience in some way. Leviathan is just, here it is, take it. We don't give a shit. You know what I mean? It's really brave cinema.
Well, the people who made it aren't actually really, career filmmakers.
Right.
They're more scientists. And environmentalists, really. Yeah. And so what you're saying is true. That their concerns wasn't about how will the audience respond. Yeah. It's more, are we getting the sense of what it's really like?
Yeah. Which brings up an interesting idea of really people outside of the filmmaking profession, making movies, giving a new a new take on film. You know, because I think it's one of the most cinematic movies of the year, not made by filmmakers, right?
Proper.
So,
but remember what I said to you after we saw it? I said, this is a film that if I was teaching, I really would like to have shown in class. And the reason was because, I frequently want to break them out of the mold of the Hollywood cinema. I want to say, the possibilities of cinema are infinitesimal. And it doesn't have to be, let's say the best of what Hollywood presents. It can be something else as well. And this film proves it in spades.
I agree. All right, moving on. My second favorite film of the year is The Dallas Buyers Club.
Okay, again we agree.
Oh,
yes.
That's funny.
That's
my
number two.
The Dallas Buyers Club, I don't think, all the praise goes to McConaughey, but I just wanted to say that I think that overall the film, the praise goes to him and Jared Leto, but overall I think the film is just expertly directed and written, and of course McConaughey, it feels like he's giving the performance of his life. And he's giving every inch of himself to the screen, and Leto the same thing. And I just found it to be the most entertaining and smartly written movie of the year. So it's funny, it's tragic, it's got ups and downs and everything you want out of a movie. So that's my take.
No, I agree with you completely on that. My side of it is that two things. One is McConaughey has done an amazing transformation. And he's been doing it one film at a time, because he came in as this very handsome, attractive young man. He was, I guess, for many years, cinema's abs. His shirts were always, the film always had him with his shirts up because ostensibly he's got great abs. He reminded me in a lot of ways, and some of his roles even were reminiscent to Paul Newman. When he came out, because Paul Newman was sort of the pretty boy of cinema, although he really had terrific acting chops. And McConaughey deliberately has turned that around, and I've been frustrated a lot because he's been giving such good performances and they haven't been recognized, or at least they were recognized by the critics, but year end when award time came, they weren't observed, and now this year they really are doing it, and so I like it for that. I love Jared Leto's performance in it.
It's incredible,
Yeah, I'm not a great fan, I think you know this, of men dressing up as women in movies. The only time I really, really liked it was when Dustin Hoffman did it. I wasn't crazy about the men doing it for Something Like It Hot even, which is a classic, and Mrs. Doubtfire and things like that. But I really, really believed him in this. I was sympathetic to him. I wanted to hug him at times. The other thing for me, and I don't know, you probably didn't really live through this era, but the era of AIDS. I remember that era, and it was so poignant because constantly there were people either that I knew through the public, the public persona, who were passing on because of it, or personal friends who were passing or dying because of this dreaded disease. And the film captures that feeling, that aura, so well. And the story itself, which I never knew. The transformation of this man and how he had to fight the medical establishment in order to get help to these people. I thought really made it, for me, one of my favorite films of the year.
My number one pick is a movie you already talked about. My favorite film of the year is Prisoners. And you pretty much said everything that I could say about it. But, I recently watched it a second and third time. And I can only say that it continues to get better and that there's so much
I've seen it more than once
to be gathered from the film. And especially Jackman's performance, I appreciated more and more. Gyllenhaal, he carries the picture, like you said. And I think that my favorite scene of the year, without ruining anything, is the car ride that he makes to the hospital. To me was the most powerful, exhilarating scene I've seen in a movie all year long. I haven't seen another I haven't been in a theater all year long and been so drawn to the screen. You know what I mean? And almost talking to the screen, make it. You know, but every performance in the film is incredible. Melissa Leo, Maria Bello, Viola Davis, Terrence Howard is incredible.
Yes, that's the best I've seen him. I think again subtle.
Yes,
you know. That's what I liked about his performance.
Very subtle.
The film has something, it just occurred to me when we were talking, it has what I call a Travis Mills ending.
Oh, it does have a Travis Mills ending.
Yes.
Which I think will...
Remember so many people commented on that during the festival.
He's bringing up the fact that I have a tendency to leave open endings or leave things ambiguous. And Prisoners definitely does that, but in a way that I think is not a trick.
No, not at all.
So if you haven't, we won't ruin it, but if you haven't seen Prisoners, the ending is very interesting, but I think a perfect ending for the material. And the last thing I want to say is, I love the crime genre. You love the crime genre. And I think this is one film that shows that the crime genre can be so complex. Like you said, this film resonates far more. It can create a discussion about what we're doing in Iraq, what we've done in Afghanistan, right? And the crime genre is a perfect vehicle for not a message, but just creating a discussion about things, about our interactions and what we do as humans. So anyway, that's my favorite film of the year. There's not a film that I saw that could beat it. What did you choose as your favorite?
Okay, I'm doing what you did as your fifth choice.
Okay.
I'm selecting two.
Okay.
And one is 50 minutes long, and the other, you'll tell me how long.
Okay.
And the first one is the film that I told you about. Have you seen it? Listen to the Forest?
I still haven't gotten
the documentary.
Chance to see it.
It's a documentary, and I have a little note here on it because it's about the Bayaka tribe who live in Central Africa in the second largest forest in the world. This is after the Amazon forest. And they are the last gatherer tribe in the world. And in other words, they just gather food, gather whatever they need, and they live on that. And this is about their music. And the director is a woman named Lavina Correa. And the producer is somebody who's a personal friend, and that is a man named James Bruce. He's a director himself, but Jamie Bruce and I have been friends for about 15 years. And he sent me this thing on the computer, on the internet.
Yeah.
And I watched it. I actually meant to watch 5 minutes of it. It held me. And so far, I've passed it on to you. I've made my wife sit and watch it, and she was completely compelled by it.
Wow.
Like this.
Yeah.
I now have the film that it is a companion to, and that is Oka. But I will suggest to anyone who gets interested in this, go online. And go to Amazon because the film Oka is there. But if you put in Listen to the Forest, you'll get the documentary that goes with it. I wrote because he asked for a commentary on it, and what I said that it is a film that makes you understand that the world of cinema can embrace larger issues than just pure entertainment. And I really liked it because of that. So it goes at the top of my list. The second that goes, and I think it's about 15 minutes long, is the film The Thief that you did in the festival, based on the Maupassant short story. What I love about it was the young people you used. And I'd love you to talk about that a little bit.
I used, he's referring to a short film that I made this last year, and I used some mentally, I guess you could call them mentally challenged, mentally disabled young adults from a group called Camp Civitan here in Phoenix. And I took a script that I had originally written just in general without them in mind, and had them work on it and reworked it, and it really came out to be one of the greatest surprises of all the films that I've made. Yeah,
it was so moving. The poignancy of it. I mean, there's so many emotions that the film elicits because you look at it. There is this kind of suspense, but it's not suspense in the what I would call a hard sense. It was almost in the tender sense because with the revelation, there are certain sensibilities and feelings are going to be hurt, but not, you don't want, they're just going to be touched on. And these feelings are so sensitive that, it's going to be felt all the way to what we call our soul. You're not poking at it, but, the feelings are there. And then just moment to moment, watching them interact with each other held me. It's again in a kind of suspense, because it's almost like watching them walk across a weak tightrope.
Right.
And then they get to this, and then they get to that, and then they get to that. And I thought it was, again, one of the best cinematic experiences I've had for the whole year.
That's really
so
cool.
That's why I picked both of these.
That's really cool. Yeah.
One expanded my perspective on what's going on in the world away from me. The other took me into a world of people that's right here. And so for that, I had to be, thrilled and was pleased and moved.
Very cool. I'm honored. All right. So should we touch real quick on any, I don't know if we want to be mean. Should we touch real quick on any movies that I feel are some of the best, are being called some of the best films of the year, but we don't necessarily like? Or
if
should we give them a pass?
whatever.
I'd like to mention a couple films that one is Wolf of Wall Street.
Okay.
I think we both agree on this. I think Wolf of Wall Street is one of Scorsese's worst films. I think it seems totally meant to shock, and him at his worst, that he's been in it with Shutter Island and aspects of The Departed, even though I enjoy The Departed a lot. But he's not making films anymore that are organic to him. And I feel like that's a big mistake. And I understand that he maybe has to make whatever he can get financing for, or whatever DiCaprio, chooses to do. But it was so disappointing to see him going that direction and just pushing this excess and really saying absolutely nothing new about Wall Street that hadn't been said by Oliver Stone in the mid-'80s. It didn't, and I think you said something really funny that you'd like to. I'd like you to share what you would like. You said, I'd like to see a movie about Wall Street where it's about a guy who goes to work and does his job and goes home to his family, and then that's just
that is not correct.
And he's just a good guy.
He's a good guy, because I knew a lot of them.
There's going to be tons of them.
Yes, I knew a lot of them, and it's always that thing, to say, nobody wants to make a movie about a saint; they want to make a movie about the devil.
Right.
But my feeling on it, I didn't absolutely hate it the way you did.
Yeah.
I felt my disappointment was that it was so repetitive. Not just repetitive within the context of the picture. I felt the picture was an hour too long. I think there's a good movie in there somewhere. But it was repetitive of things that Scorsese has done before that seemed original. It felt like a lot of the structural motifs of Goodfellas were employed here. Everything was external as far as I was concerned. The acting was external.
Right.
DiCaprio gave his all, but it was all from here out. I never felt that there was anything interior with it.
Right.
The same thing with Jonah Hill. And but the whole film itself has that quality.
Yeah, except for one element though, the FBI agent. And
yes,
I don't know
I like that
what
acting.
his name is, but I
thought he was good.
There's something about him that's so refreshing when you see him, because it's not external. It's all internal. So.
But the curious thing about that film, the contradictory thing, is there's some very moving scenes. I mentioned that to you, that the scene where he is about to leave his firm,
right?
And he talks to that woman when he says, she wanted $5,000 and how much he gave her. That scene practically moved me to tears. So it's an irritating picture
because
in the
there's
sense,
some great scenes in it. Yeah.
That you're talking about one of my favorite directors. Just essentially puking up all over himself, like that. I wish he had the discipline to have pulled things in better. Like that. I want to go back to something you said earlier, because I was talking about this with somebody else during the festival, and talking about Hugh Jackman, talking about Matthew McConaughey, acting one more time in film, at least in these films, have become something of a focus. It hasn't been for a long time.
That's true.
Yeah, we've had good actors, but there was a point where you went to a movie because the actors were going to do exciting things with characterizations.
We're back again.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm talking about Paul Newman, Brando, what's her name? Streep, young Streep, all of these people working like that. And
Right.
now we talk about special effects, we talk about concepts, etc. But one of the things is that the acting in these films is what gives them their special quality. And it's nice to be back with that.
I
and
agree.
even disagreeing with what DiCaprio does in Wolf of Wall Street, still it's nice to be able to talk about the acting.
Yes,
Yeah,
performance,
like that.
yeah.
So I agree with you. I would say 70%.
Okay.
That's
yeah.
my
And just to
feeling.
make it clear, I'm not trying to be mean.
No, I know.
I'm
know.
just
Yeah.
disappointed because I want to see Scorsese at his
Yes.
best again. A movie that we both loved, didn't make our list, but I think we should talk about it, is The Hunt.
Yes.
The
yes.
Hunt. This is a movie by Thomas Vinterberg with Mads Mikkelsen. It won. I think it won some
He
award.
won
at
Best
Cannes.
Actor at Cannes.
Right.
Yes.
And it's an incredible movie about a kindergarten preschool teacher who is accused of
Child
molesting a
molestation.
child, and just how this witch hunt, this how this rumor spreads throughout the community and really ruins his life
Right.
and haunts him forever. And I think it is one of the best movies of the year. I couldn't fit it in my top 5, but it's incredible.
I do too. And one of the things that, because I've heard it, and it's even in the news now with Woody Allen again, is that's such a serious accusation.
Yes.
And when one is accused of that, it really can create a tragedy for somebody's life. So the point I'm making is we want to be careful
Right.
when we accuse people of these kind of crimes, like that, because it's a horrible crime to do. But let's be careful of, sometimes just affection gets confused
Yeah.
because we're so overly conscious of that. And this film points it out very well, the era of, over emphasizing that kind of thing.
I agree. And it's an interesting, the director, Vinterberg, was the creator alongside Lars von Trier
Yes.
of the Dogma 95 movement, which if you guys don't know, you should look it up. It's one of the most important movements in film ever. But he, his first film that he made for Dogma was Celebration. And that film is about bringing out a family secret of molestation. And this film, they're the perfect bookends.
Exactly.
And he's been sort of missing as a filmmaker in the years in between them. And with The Hunt, I was excited to say he's back. Now he's doing Far From the Maddening Crowd.
Yes.
And I'm like, he's back now. Like, let's see some good stuff from him. I just wanted to highlight that one as one of the best
We said
films.
we talk about the Oscars.
Let's
for
talk
a
about
minute.
the Oscars.
You go first.
Well, I mean, I don't, to be honest with you, I haven't been paying super attention to the Oscars. And I feel like a lot of the films that I didn't care for much will probably win. I would like to see McConaughey win Best Actor. There's other great acting. The guy from 12 Years a Slave, I can never say his name.
Yes.
He's incredible in a film that I don't like. I think that I can't remember who else is nominated actually. I didn't see American Hustle, so I can't.
Yeah, American Hustle, I liked, and like you, it's the first time I liked Christian Bale. He lightened himself up so much. He was wonderful in it. I thought Ben Cooper was terrific in it.
Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper was terrific in it. I'd like to see McConaughey win, but that actor, again, from 12 Years a Slave, I feel like he's a personal discovery to me from Dirty Pretty Things.
Right.
And I remember singing his praises when I saw him. And as the years have gone by, I've seen him on miniseries, I've seen him on anything, and he's never given a bad performance. I understand he did an incredible Othello in England. I wish I could have seen it or even a video of it.
Right.
But so I won't be upset if he winds up getting the Oscar, but I really would like to see McConaughey just get recognized for the work that he has been doing for a long time.
Yeah. I haven't seen the film, but I've heard his performance is amazing. Bruce Dern. I haven't seen Nebraska yet.
Yes.
I would if McConaughey doesn't win it, or the guy from 12 Years a Slave, I'd like to see Dern win it, just because he's put in the work.
Oh yes.
Man.
Oh
You know?
yeah. I mean, for years
Yeah.
nobody's noticed Bruce Dern, and this may be his last hurrah.
Yeah.
In terms of getting he'll work, but in terms of getting a role that he's so organically connected to.
Yeah.
Another performance that got lost, and now it's become kind of a reflex response because he's given so many good performances. For me, is Tom Hanks in Captain Phillips.
Yes.
He is so good in that picture. And now it's like with Meryl Streep, you just say, it's Hanks, it must be excellent. But, that doesn't mean that they get it. It happens automatically. These people have to really put work in it.
Yeah, I didn't like that film as much as you did, Captain Phillips.
I know.
But I do think that that it shows Hanks coming back, because he's been a little bit dormant in recent years. I know. And I'm excited to see him taking challenging roles again. I don't know who's nominated for Best Director, to be honest with you.
Again,
the American Hustle guy, and
Scorsese,
and the guy from 12 Years a Slave.
Right.
And then I don't know who
Steve
the other
McQueen.
two are.
I
know that the Captain Phillips director got snubbed, and I think he shouldn't, because he's one of the only people who's making interesting action movies these days. Mm-hmm. Has a good feel for action, but is giving it more than just the typical action thing.
It has a sociological overview as well.
Right.
And the two guys that they used, as the
non-actors.
The non-actors they used in that. I mean, those guys, and again, you've directed non-actors, and you know how much work goes into that to elicit
incredible
good performances, and they were remarkable. I think one of them is up for an Oscar.
And I hope he wins.
General overview on the Oscar, it's a nice, somebody said it's a pat on the back from the industry, and
this is true.
So I think that's what it is. We shouldn't give it more importance than that, but still, it's nice. Like that, for recognition's sake.
And it's fun to talk about. It's fun to argue about.
Right.
I don't remember who the actresses are who were nominated. I'm really bad at
I know we didn't look at the list.
Yeah,
but,
Meryl Streep, of course, is in there for who knows how many of
time. And so is Julia Roberts. For Osage County. And then the one that everybody thinks, and you've seen the film Blue Jasmine, they feel that Kate Blanchett will get it. I think that's a lock.
And I like her in that film.
Oh,
I know you don't care for the film, but she really gave it her all.
I didn't hate the film, but I just felt that it was too reminiscent of other things I've seen. But she gave a remarkable performance in it. She was really good. And Woody Allen did a wonderful job directing it. Too. Yes. His screenplay is up for an award as well. So,
which is nice to see. I don't want to see Gravity win a single award other than the special effects awards, because I thought, to me, again, like the screenplay and the acting and all that, for me in Gravity totally took a backseat. So it's not a film that I feel belongs in the best picture category. I feel like the technical elements are astounding, but I don't feel like it belongs in the best picture category, personally. So
I liked it a lot. What I saw, but I will agree with you with that, because years ago I argued the opposite with 2001, but 2001 positions a philosophical overview that transcends the genre.
Right.
And in this particular case, that isn't the circumstance at all. It's a very smart film, done very well. And no more than that, from my point of view. I'm a big fan of Sandra Bullock. I think, in spite of her Academy Award, she's underappreciated as an actress. And so I'm happy to see her get a role that puts her forward one more time. And George Clooney is always a pleasant presence. And that's all he is in this particular one.
Absolutely.
A pleasant presence. Somebody said the other day, he's our Cary Grant. And so, why not?
This is true. And one last thought. I wanted to say that I really wish that Redford had been nominated for all his loss.
Oh, God, yes. I wish so, too.
But I admire him for not campaigning, and I've heard that also the makers of the films didn't campaign, really. But that is really one of the best performances of the year. and it's just incredible.
Now,
So,
my last thing on the Oscar, when you talk about campaigning, is one of my favorite actors years ago was Dirk Bogarde, and he was asked because he was nominated actually for The Servant, in which he gave an excellent performance, and he didn't campaign. And somebody said, "Why aren't you campaigning for the Academy Award?" And he said, "But I did." And he said, "Where?" And he said, "When I made the picture, when I acted in the role." And that's what it should be.
Right.
It shouldn't be ads pointing you to the performance and encouraging you to vote. It should be because the performance was such that is its own advertisement.
Right, I completely agree. So next week we're moving away from directors into actors, and we're starting with Fred MacMurray.
Right.
So I've got because I haven't seen as many Fred MacMurray movies as you, so I've got my list going, and I'm gonna try to cram for the test this weekend and try to get a little more associated with Fred MacMurray. So we will be back soon. Thank you for listening or watching.
Thank you, and thanks for talking to us at the festival about it.
Right.
I didn't realize people really listen to this, but I'm enjoying it.
There you go. Thank you.